Hello, everyone, and welcome to Jackson's Math Notebook. Today, we are going to convert fractions into decimals and then into percentages. And so here are our five candidates. We have 1/5, 1/10, 1/20th, 1/40th, and 1/50th, and we're going to sing a song to help us convert fractions to decimals. I know singing songs are a little boring, a little cheesy, and it's kind of like something you don't want to do. But little songs really help you understand math a little better. And with that in mind, here is our little song. Numerator in the box, 0.00. Okay, you see that? There's our little song. Numerator in the box, 0.00. 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 Yes, I am a little embarrassed myself, but it's going to help us learn math. And so what we're going to do, we're going to take that division problem because fractions ultimately are division problems. Okay. And so with that in mind, we're going to take that decimal point, move it up, and then we can ignore it for now. And so we have 1.00 divided by 5, but we're going to treat it as 100 divided by 5. And we know that 5 can go into 10 two times because 5 times 2 is 10. And we'll subtract 10 normally, just like we normally would with a typical division problem. And we know that 10 take away 10 will give us 0. And then what we'll do, we'll just bring down this added 0 as a placeholder in which we're going to put up here. And our answer as a decimal is 20 hundredths or 2/10. Okay, and now let us convert that decimal 20 hundredths or 2/10 into a percentage. And we could just do that if you remember from previous videos. We're just going to move that decimal point two places back to the right to turn it into a percent. And so we know that 1/5 is the same as 2/10 or 20 hundredths and is the same as 20%. And let us move on to our next example in which we're going to do the same thing by putting that numerator in the box 0.00. And then we're going to move that decimal point straight up. And we're just going to do regular division as if we're doing 100 divided by 10. And we know that 10 goes into that 10 one time. 10 times 1 is 10. 10 take away 10 is 0. And let's bring down that 0 as a placeholder down here. And we know that 10 cannot go into 0. So we're just going to add that 0 up here. And we know that 1/10 is the same as saying 0.1, which is, of course, 10% because we're going to move the decimal point two places to the right and add that percent sign. We're going to do the same thing with 1/20ths. And we're just going to move that decimal straight up before we do anything so we can see it as 100 divided by 20. And we know that 20 goes into 105 times because 20 times 5 will give us 100. 100 take away 100 will give us 0. And so our answer is 0, 0.05 or 5 hundredths. Okay, and 5 hundredths, when we move that decimal point two places over to the right and add a percent sign, it will give us 5%. Now let us move on to 1/40th. And we know that 40 can go into 100, okay, two times because 40 times 2 will give us 80, and 100 minus 80 will give us 20, but 40 cannot go into 20. And here's the interesting thing. We can always add a 0 if we need to complete the division process. And so we know that 40 can go into 200 when we add that extra 0 5 times because 40 times 5 will give us 200. And so now our answer is 0.025. And when we move that decimal point over two places to the right, and we can only move it two places to the right, our answer is going to be 2.5% right here in this case. And let's move on to our final example, 1/50th. And we know that 50 can go into 100. But before we do that, let us move our decimal point straight up and then do the regular division as if we're dividing 100 by 50. And we know that 50 can go into 100 two times. And 100 minus 100 will give us 0, and our answer is going to be 0.02, in which when we move the decimal over 2 places to the right, we will get 2%. And your teacher is going to ask you to put these in order, either from least to greatest or from greatest to least. But in this case, we're going to put them in order from least to greatest. So you can understand the relationship of the numerator to its denominator. If the numerator is far away from its denominator, it's a very small fraction or a very small percentage. And this is why 1/50th is the lowest of these fractions right here, because it has a further relationship from its numerator to its denominator. And that's why we see that it is 2%. Notice that 1/40th has a closer relationship from the numerator to the denominator, and that's why it's the second lowest. And it comes in at 2.5%. 1/20th, as you can see, has an even closer relationship from its numerator to its denominator, and it comes in third place at 5%. 1/10th, notice how that gap is closing, and that's why it's almost the greatest fraction here, because it comes in at 10%. And then finally 1/5, and the gap is closing. Therefore, 1/5 is the same as 20%. And with that in mind, you can replay this video as many times you need to, pause it, or just look at it and you will get it. Okay. And just kind of sing that song to yourself to better help you understand how to convert fractions to decimals and then to percentages. But in the meantime, please comment, share, like, and I repeat, like, and subscribe to Jackson's Math Notebook for more content. Thank you and goodbye.